What's up, everyone? Welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. So I was perusing the Twitters and one of the most hyped things happened. Now, you guys know, don't necessarily show a lot of excitement about anything, but for some reason, this kind of hit me a little bit hard. And I think it's because of all the work that we've been putting into this particular project. That is the covering of Gotham Knights for almost 4 years now. We didn't even know it was Gotham Knights when we started. We just heard that there was wind, that they were working on a video game. We didn't know if it was even Rocksteady that was going to put out their game first or if it was Warner Brothers Games Montreal. But apparently it was WB Montreal. And so far, so good. I think it's been worth the wait for the information about the project. So many might still have their own concerns about the project, but there really is nothing that we can do about it. There's nothing we could have done about it. A lot of those decisions were made without our input. So I guess it's just a matter of assessment. When the game is released in 100 days, did you hear that? 100 days from now, hopefully, God willing, everything goes well. We don't get another major delay. We don't get any issues happen. We'll be able to see for ourselves what this game is about. So shout out to Gotham Knights Update on Twitter and Podcast Now and a few other folks that commented on this. That's how it, I think, came on my feed. And it's really interesting just to see the evolution and to see the transformation of Warner Brothers Games Montreal. In fact, I purposefully put the gameplay footage from Batman Arkham Origins in the 100 versus 1 combat challenge map. This is fresh gameplay, by the way. I literally just grinded this out today, the 18th, and it took me like maybe 9 tries to be able to go on a no-hit run. For some reason, the full combat run in terms of the combos, trying to connect all your combos throughout the whole play, is kind of glitchy on PC. There are things that would happen with your inputs that it's just not worth trying. So this is what I got for you guys to mark the 100th day celebration and to just go back and do a little bit of, I would say retrospective regarding how it is that this has actually come about. You see, this entire conversation has been something that's been brewing for a very long time. There were all kinds of rumors out there. There were canceled games. There were games that were actually canceled based on collapses that are in the Warner Brothers and DC universe, like the 2007-2008 Superman game that was canceled because the publisher went out of business. So this community has really been waiting for some really interesting IPs, but largely, I mean, it's in a place where now everyone is ready to come back and compete in terms of gaming. Seems like a lot of developers and publishers have spent, millions and millions of dollars in the incubator, and it's time for us to see what they all got. I'm of the mind that a game that has anything to offer will compete very well in the market, and there is no better time for Gotham Knights to be released than now, so that we would actually see how it measures up in terms of fan interest, and if not fan interest, in terms of the quality of the game, if there is any to be considered at all. And I say this as somebody who's looking forward to this game, but somebody who wants to be realistic. Most of you here in the community, that as much as I'm really kind of, looking forward to the game, I try to temper my expectations from time to time. I don't want to go full blown hype mode or fanboyish so that I don't get this, disenfranchised or disappointed at the end of the day. Because there are other games that are coming out that will try to vie for attention, that will try to put out the best possible product in their world. In fact, right now, God of War Ragnarok is being a strong contender for Game of the Year, and it hasn't even come out. I mean, think about that. Elden Ring, is a game that already won its own place. Whether or not it becomes Game of the Year, it doesn't really matter at this point. The game provided a unique selling point that many video games haven't dared to touch in many years. Not because other game developers couldn't, it's just because game development kind of went south. Everybody's hands started getting held. Stories started getting weak and empty. Everything was just so weird and linear that it was very difficult for many even to kind of understand that Elden Ring was, in a sense, revolutionary in the old school way, bringing back what made video games quite strong. And Gotham Knights, in its sense, is trying to do something new. As much as we may or may not agree with everything it's trying to do, it's one of those things where we're just looking to say, let's see what happens and see what comes of this. And those of us that are out here saying we're willing to give it a chance, we're going in to say, okay, we want to assess what this game is about. Those of us that are behind those of us that are actually saying, okay, let's check this out. You're probably wondering and saying, well, I'm going to wait for all of you to go forward and kind of like test out this game and see what it's about. Then if it appeals to me, then I'm going to come on the back end. And that's perfectly fine. In fact, I think that those who have been skeptic about Gotham Knights are just as important as those who have been excited about the game. There is that balance that needs to happen right now because gaming industry has changed, fans have changed, and right now is not the time for us to be, pampering any dev or any publisher. No, now is the time to actually hold people's feet to the fire. So those of you that are much more skeptic, it's nice to read your opinions. It's nice to see and hear the things that you say because it balances out the voice. Because if a game receives a lot of hype and no detraction, we're going to have a Cyberpunk 2077 situation on our hands. In fact, I think, and I'm going to dare to say this, that the detractors, the critics, as well as the fans and those excited have created a balance for Gotham Knights to at least succeed, because now expectations are more realistic than, say, other games that are coming out. Think about it. Think about God of War. Think about Hogwarts Legacy. The expectations for these games are through the roof. And if you think about it, God of War Ragnarok began its production somewhere right after the first God of War in 2018. I say first God of War in quotes, was released. So that game is going to play very similarly to the 2018 version, right? I mean, there's no doubt about that. So what we're going to be seeing is a very similar game in a sense. Yes, it will have its unique story. There will be changes that are, in a sense, indicative of a new game, but it's not necessarily going to be too revolutionary other than what the story elements kind of bring and how they actually tell it. This could be a strong point, and this could be a place where it actually doesn't necessarily meet those extreme expectations that are being held, because right now there are a few detractors of God of War Ragnarok. Have you seen anybody that has made any negative connotation to the game? There isn't anyone. And I'm not saying there should be anyone. I'm just saying the developers did such a good job in the first game that it's not uncommon for you to see this amount of praise that follows for the second game. And in Hogwarts Legacy almost has no detractors as well in its own commentary. In fact, when I provide sometimes a neutral commentary, I get, fans for Hogwarts Legacy a little disappointed because I'm not necessarily always jumping to hype a video game. And even if when I do hype a game, I try to provide, something of a balanced view from the other side of the entire, conversation. So it's been very important so far these past few years to see Gotham Knights exist in this particular space, to see these projects that we've been doing in terms of covering the game, looking at the canon, looking at the different elements within the game, gameplay, story, and all of that. It's been super helpful for me personally, and I'm sure for the game, to be able to just create the expectations that are much more realistic than anything else. So I think Gotham Knights is fine where it's at, because like we always say, you have those who are full on, head on, gung ho. I mean, I'm talking, the folks that are ready to go all in, myself included. And then I'm talking about the folks who are like, hey, we're a little skeptic, but we're willing to see how this turns out overall. So we're not going to throw our expectations, into the hat with everybody. We're going to hold off and see how this game runs. So in 100 days, Gotham Knights is going to prove whatever the heck it's about. And I'm looking forward to that. And I'm sure you're looking forward to that as well. Thanks for watching the video. I really appreciate you guys so much. And hopefully we'll talk very soon. Peace out.